Yep.
September monthly. So I pulled a few cards that is going to be pretty much for all of us. Maybe our messages, maybe our general reading for basically this transition. And it's kind of like really telling to me. It starts with Milky Way. It was the first card that came through it, and it kind of like really got me giggling because I am rewatching those series through the Wormhole with Morgan Freeman. So if you haven't seen it, it's kind of like really interesting to really see how basically that physics interact with most likely even our spirituality, and how we are comprehending those, I mean, additional or alternate realities, right? Because as you know, Earth is the part of the Milky Way, but Milky Way has probably billions, you know, it is probably one of billions of galaxies that we actually know in the universes that we are absorbing, right? It has, I don't know, billions, probably 400 billion stars, and it is the one that is the closest to the sun. And it's kind of like interesting because they have managed to, everything that you see in the sky is basically past. You're not seeing the present because it takes time for the light to come and reflect. So everything that we see is not really what is going on in that moment. So it's kind of like a concept in itself that kind of like we need to kind of like wrap our head around. So it's kind of like really interesting for this month because we are going through basically Virgo transition and actually also Libra, so I can see actually both kind of like sending their own messages, right? So this is really telling us to regain our perspective. Maybe we strayed away, maybe we kind of like lost gravity, maybe certain people don't gravitate toward us or we don't gravitate toward them, right? It simply kind of like it is time to possibly step back and then allow ourselves to detach in order to kind of like gather information, right? And it's kind of like going into that internal aspect of ourselves that kind of like observes life instead of life basically happen to us, right? It also is basically telling us to look at things from different point of view, from kind of like understanding that, hey, we are part of this big universe, right? We kind of need to kind of like understand not only where our position is, but also how everything can affect us and how maybe even the small emotion can affect the entire basically universe. So it's kind of like really interesting because the next time is dream time, and this is kind of like this beautiful story. And I know that the Australians are going to correct me because this is talking about the Aboriginals of Australia, right? And this is basically their place that exists before time. So it's just like when I saw these cards coming out, I was really giggling because this also talks about how basically Earth was formed, right? And they're talking about that they had this ancestral ancient ancestral, what is the word, spirits that kind of like remained in the kind of like very forms that was created, so including all these animals and hills and stars and all this kind of like other features that we kind of like see around us. It's basically kind of like basically continue to present today their gods, right? So this is really talking about our either individual but also I believe group spiritual template that kind of, in particularly in this card, talks about things that have been passing down from one generation to another. So we are talking about at least 60,000 years, although those aboriginals would say they existed since the beginning of time. So in one those traditions, right, there is this creation story that is involving this Daijiraidu, which I think it's pronounced, and correct me if I'm wrong, this kind of like hollow, right, log that kind of like emits kind of like woo, that kind of like droning sound when kind of like is being played. It's kind of like really nice. It's kind of like really gets you into this vibration, and you kind of like really start feeling that connection when you hear it. So, you know, kind of like it is again time to kind of like sink deeply and understand that sort of like you are that crossover between spirit and physical reality. So it's like a breathing, comes in and comes out. What are you letting in and what are you letting out? Maybe it's going to be kind of like some kind of realization, because this is very much like Hermit card. It talks about solitude. No, it doesn't talk about loneliness. It really talks about the quality that we need to have in order to kind of like understand that, you know, sometimes we need to pull things inside of us to understand, express our own creativity. Maybe something got stuck. Maybe there was like sort of like stalemate. Maybe for some reason certain things couldn't happen. Maybe they're not part of the big picture, right? Because it could be that you're talking about a person. This is this card called Loyal Heart. And it's kind of like really amazing to really see, because as you know, Libras are always kind of like thinking in those terms, right? That, you know, there is like this royalty. And what I really like about this card is like that these two owls are actually looking in each other's eyes. So there is like this big heart, and there is like this big understanding between the two of them. This kind of like I really feel was more or less talking about us personally needing to reconnect. Maybe we got disconnected. We need to reconnect and understand how our actions are affecting other people. That also, even on the lonely island, the tree is going to grow and be magnificent, and nothing is going to stop, not even a storm, because the light always can be found, right? Maybe we need to find Loyal Heart. Maybe that is what is happening, because I really think this is really addressing the later part of the month, but that's maybe some kind of like self-understanding that we need to kind of like come to. Maybe this is really talking about our partnerships and friendships and romantic relationships, right? Maybe they have some qualities in common. It is really good to kind of like see this, because part of this reflection is going to be, this is the mirror of me, right? So this is really talking about also us being dedicated and devoted back to our friends, to kind of like express that faithfulness. And I really think it's going to really be all around, kind of like understanding that maybe we pushed too far or we didn't do enough, and kind of like coming into this balance. It is kind of like really, really interesting, because this is telling me that your kind of like long-term loyalty to your goals is going to become kind of like very evident in this world of conditions where, you know, all our aspirations for success kind of like sometimes assume form kind of like in reality, but success is nonetheless looks like taking shape, and it was inside job over here. From what I see, we kind of like really need to kind of like in all this kind of like process stay flexible, because if we are inflexible, what do you expect to come out of that process? We kind of like have to kind of like come to this kind of like bigger perspective that is basically talking about here. So I really would not advise any kind of like stubbornness of any kind. Now, interestingly enough, that we did get here Thunderbolt and the Outsider. None of them is a good card. So it is really telling me this is that basically Tower card. But here, as you can see, lots of people are jumping off instead of from Tower, from here. This is really telling me about ego death. It is really telling me that we need to shed some aspects of ourselves that maybe we were like really holding on for such a long time. Maybe we kind of like felt as an outsider. We could always maybe meet people who would always keep us, you know, some kind of like foot away, or kind of like it was always a distance that we couldn't somehow overcome, even if we tried it. The truth is, like, this came reversed. So this is telling me that maybe something is happening, that we are even clueless about something, because we all build our own egos, we all build our own life. It's basically all this house of cards. It's like all that ego stuff, where especially we are getting really like more and more kind of like divided with choices, and we don't have any more universal news and universal things, and we keep looking for things that will reinforce our basically already viewpoint. And this is really telling me that this is something that you are needing to really deal with. Maybe this month you want to kind of try to just to listen to something different, attend to classes that otherwise you wouldn't attend, kind of like really talk to people who are much different. Because look at this card. Hello, hello, who came to say hi to everybody? Say hi, say hi here to camera, that's it, pretty girl, walk up. So this is kind of interesting, because some people don't like when my kitty cat Sapphire comes over here, and you know, this divining, it's all about observation and it's intuition. Intuition usually kicks in and clues in when you are really observant of this perspective. And this perspective is like, this is what happened. Just like as I was saying, some friendships and some kind of like love relationships will become coming to you to acknowledge that. Just like Safi jumped in, said hi, and I love you. And I really think this is like something we can really look forward. I think there are some conditions though, and these conditions would be few things that we really need to figure out. Also, maybe what obstacles we have created, and if this is a really big deal, or how to really kind of like get off that high horse, how important we are, because we live in really strange times, right? And this card, as I was just about to say, look at us through this fence, how beautiful these colors are. And of course, this little child looking inadequate, it's kind of like looking what is out there. I really, really want to be there, and what's going on. Maybe the child is in the garden and looking out, but maybe looking into something else. Now, I think the key in this picture is this basically chain. And look at this chain. It is opened. It doesn't take much to really take away this chain. So now these two cards together, what do you chain yourself to it? What kind of beliefs are you holding that maybe need to be released? You have to figure out if something that you were really holding as really important, this is who I am, without this I cannot live. Try to shed all these kind of like core principles to a minimum, and you will see how, you know, you're going to really be able to embrace more people as well as to be embraced. So this is kind of like a general part of the reading, and now we are going to go in the individual signs. Guys, I still have the speed up promotion. Still, if you order your own reading, you will get it much shorter. So instead of 3 weeks, you're getting in a week for the regular one. Instead of 1 week for a rush one, you're going to get it in 3 days. And urgent, it used to be 3 days, now it's like 24 hours. So kind of like make your pick, and you can check it via my website, cattarot.ca. And guys, let's not forget that there is a contest going on where you can win a 15-minute reading with me. Part of it is like leaving comments over here on Facebook or on Instagram, and that's going to be one winner a month that I'm going to pull from basically all of these guys. But there's going to be a much maybe faster way if you come to my live, which is every Saturday at 11 o'clock EST. You need to comment so we know that you're there. Just say hi, and you know, some of the moderators are going to kind of like make the pick. They can call it any time. You have to be present in order to get the award, and you get this like 15 minutes with me, and from that point you will just need to contact me and you're all set. And of course, nothing beats private reading. This is just your energy and me, and we are really looking down and trying to find not only what's up, but also what is the best way out of it. And this is it. Let's start with this month's Taroscopes. Hi Pisces, and welcome to your September monthly. Just a reminder that we are in a year number 11, and September is always, because it's a number 9 month, so when you add 9 to any number, it doesn't change the numerological essence of this number. So hence, this is a month number 11. So pay attention to 9/11, and that's why 9/11 has a crucial kind of like vibration, especially in the year number 11. So remember, general reading, you know, kind of like the disclaimer, check your ascendant, check your moon sign to kind of like see more elements that you can put it together to get and squeeze as much as you can. And I'm sorry, I'm really making this very long. I'm trying to figure it out how to make it shorter, and I know that you have to watch this in installments, but you know, I'm sometimes getting a really important message, and sometimes it's like really really kind of like not as crucial to get out with this. So with you, let me start with these two cards that came out, and I was getting bundles if you kind of like pay attention to kind of like doing it. And 2 of Swords and 10 of Swords reversed. 2 of Swords to me is always, look at it in this particular deck, walking that tightrope, but blindfolded. That's not an easy task to do. So obviously heading in a new direction. Do you love Pisces? Huh? No? Really? Really? Come here. Come here, little furball. Come here, little furball. She is coming to say hi on certain signs. So pretty much the same thing I said in the interaction. Somebody's coming here to say hi and I love you. It could be you. 10 of Swords is really talking about difficult situation that is like now being overcome, and it's kind of like going in a new stage. The worst is over, but you're still kind of like feeling the effects of things kind of like that maybe have been painful. The Swords are not really the element you really want to be in, because it's really talking about lots of thoughts. And some point being made that in your case have been like really painful. This also can talk to me about a breakup and you needing to go in a new direction, but it's kind of like, you know, you have to go there. You need to kind of like hit there and you need to make this decision, but oh my gosh, you kind of like, you're exhausted. You've been through so much, you're feeling really difficulty doing that. So let's see bottom of the decks. Codependency and 10 of Pentacles. 10 of Pentacles reversed in this particular second, and also here I usually look all the way up to the first major arcana. This is you, the moon is your kind of like thing. So I really think in this particular case, codependency talks about maybe what do you think is the path forward, how to move forward, not only not repeating the same mistakes, but not getting the same results. Oh, I have to tell you, I just had a mini break before your reading, and this was like the breadcrumb that came through, and I figured you might be interested because Aquarians, and I don't know if you still have it here, you have it as well. You know, there is basically rain outside, but you're having somehow this heart, and even though it kind of like moved, look at what I got here. Another little breadcrumb heart. So these little messages, this kind of like little kind of like notes, are definitely a spirit kind of like communicating to you. So I really think that you are trying to get out of some kind of like darkness. Some of you, maybe you have been howling at the moon, maybe you have been in a situation that has disturbed you as a person, disturbed your family, and maybe there is a family member who is like very demanding and wants something that you cannot give, and you being Pisces, you are kind of like breaking your back to do that for them. You need to speak your truth. Clearly it's like getting to that point. So let's see, what else do you have? Make the effort, forgiving and learning. Very soon, let your friends help you. Soulmate, give your relationship a chance. Again, calling in your soulmate. Trust, engagement, and keep an open mind, which you guys do. So let's leave this codependency here, and let's leave these few cards here as basically a reminder that you're kind of like trying to resolve certain things, because you see this moon is really talking about the intuitiveness, right? And the Knave of Swords is like kind of the very next card, which of course you cannot see, the very next card from this Ten of Swords. So there is like a progress moving forward. It is like kind of like essence of, for everyone else and the other sign, this card is really not a good card at all. This card talks about, oh my gosh, it's just like pretty much how this feels for you. Like I have to walk this tightrope and I'm going to fall down and break my leg, or you know, wet my fur, kind of a thing. It's like horrifying, right? But to the rest of us, this is horrifying, that kind of like uncertainty, which you can clearly kind of like walk through it. And you see, that's the water creature here. The water creature is you. And this is kind of this idea, really not being sidetracked with difficulties, or even though if difficulties, because you see this like two towers or pearly gates, whichever way you want to present it. And this moon has both sun and the moon, and of course the kitty face in there. So there are those distractions where, you know, you kind of like the only ones who can actually go, and that's basically the spiritual path, the intuitive path, kind of like that connection that is being described there. So I really think this kind of like talks about recalling and calling yourself who you are, what you need out of relationship, what you want other people to bring to relationship. And let me see what else you have here. So let's start. I'm hopefully not going to make it like so ridiculously long. It's I really don't want to make this into a movie each and every month, but at the same time I really want to send the messages that have to come. You have the trust twice. You have the trust over here, and there was like something that you really needed to pick yourself up, and it basically said that your friends had a big role in that particular situation, where, you know, there was like something that you needed to kind of like have that faith in yourself, in the other people. But there was like still a really, or maybe you wanted to have faith that somebody's going to do the right thing, that somebody's going to basically work with you on some kind of solution. But it looks like that somebody was more interested in their own interest, in what kind of like really they need, because you have this Knave of Pentacles and Eight of Cups. And Eight of Cups is really, really interesting because there are so many good things here at home. Look at this, the milk is boiling, and you know, I come in, there is like warmth over there, there's probably meat and stuff, and all these cups are still full. But hey, kitty kitty, like the little like safari cat, Siamese cat, obviously, she kind of like really, really wants to go. And look, we still have the moon over here. You maybe start to feel that you're kind of like going against your interest, or that you're losing this touch with yourself. And I think this is like clearly you're understanding that you need to kind of like pull things together, that you need to kind of like start to feel the connectivity. Because, you know, to Aquarians, if you tell them, oh, you're like so pretty, Aquarians are not going to bother, right? But if you tell to Scorpio, you know, you are like very smart, they go, what? Tell me I'm sexy. But tell Aquarians they're kind of like smart, and they're going to love you. For you, like, I mean, telling you that you're pretty or smart is like secondary to, hey, you're very intuitive, you really get it. That's kind of like really that kind of like trigger point. But the codependency tells me that maybe you have lost that connection, maybe even trust into yourself. There was need to kind of like really pick yourself up over here, which I think is going to really happen this month. It's like really good card, and I don't read this bottom because most of the time it's really silly, but this one in particular is good. Clearly decide what you want, because even here maybe you know where you have to head, but you maybe don't want to go there. You know what they say, sometimes you will not get what you want, but you're going to get what you need, and what you need may turn out to be what you want. This is kind of like usual situation where you maybe have a friend, and it's a friend you're not interested in. There is like no chemistry, there's like nothing there, but that friend is really, really nice, and maybe it's somebody you can really rely upon. And then one day something clicks, and the hug leads to a kiss, and kiss leads to, hey, I'm staying over, kind of a thing. And then you kind of see this person in a completely different light. It's almost like the light has been turned on, and this was the right time for that connection to happen. So the sun is like really shedding light. So you have both moon and the sun over here. Very, very important, very magical connection that really sees everything. There's like everything over here, like sort of like the world is your oyster right now. So pick up that pearl over here. And there was like something that you looks like you have been really, really harmed, but honestly in your case it almost like feels like there has been some kind of like self-harm, and there is like need to heal this. What do I mean by self-harm? That somebody really does something to us and not good, painful. In your case it could have been playing with your emotions, toying with your emotions, telling you things, but maybe having somebody on the side and kind of like even gaslighting situation, and hence maybe you're kind of like recovering from it and kind of like going in a different direction, because codependency always talks about not being able to let go, not being able to keep kind of like forgiving, which, yeah, it's not a good quality. And I don't care what religions say, you know, forgiving is the quality that it should be inside quality, that we have to forgive ourselves for maybe not following our karma, because here is clearly saying you need to set the boundaries. So yeah, you can forgive someone. That doesn't mean they can keep doing the same things, because you know what, if you don't like something and somebody keeps doing the same thing and same thing over, you know that this is their modus operandi, that's the way they are. So you need to really figure out who and what and where. It's literally, you know, the business plan or the love plan, call it whatever it is. Look, you know what, I do love you, but I'm not going to tolerate other people. I am not going to tolerate lack of transparency. I need complete clarity in the situation. I don't really care about all these other people, and I especially don't care when you're kind of like doing these things to me, because that's why you had this page of the page of swords, knave of swords. It's kind of like somebody who definitely is asking all kinds of like really, really difficult questions, and maybe in your face, maybe, you know, you're going to be in somebody's face, but this is like really what is like really needed for you, where you have in your basically core over here, make the effort and forgiving and learning. So I was just about telling you about forgetting and forgiving, but there it is. It is for you. Basically, just as I said, forgiving and learning is releasing and healing the past. It's not necessarily sitting down with someone and saying, okay, sure, yeah, you have cheated on me. It cost me so many nights that I was like crying my eyes out. My heart was in such big pain. I didn't even sleep. I didn't eat. And do you know how difficult it was for me that you did that? No. This is like really doing that gift to yourself, saying to yourself, look, you know what? I'm holding this weight of this pain of somebody who you really consider dear. Look at this soulmate, look at this spilled cup, spilled milk, and there is like this hope. But this codependency is like the indication that you know that that's unhealthy, that you know that there is like no flow of energy, that you know that, you know, like again, there is another two, the decision needs to kind of like be reached. There is another two, look at this, like 3 twos, somebody juggling. This is a really clear message. It is, look, if somebody has no long-term vision and long-term plans with you, if maybe they are just like saying that, giving you a lip service, but not really doing it, instead they're just like simply doing completely the opposite of what they say, or not even remembering the promises they made, they're like promises in vain. Like, pay attention to yourself. So you have like this Two of Pentacles, Nine of Pentacles, right? So pay attention to yourself, like transform. This person is basically not going to benefit you, and they have to make the effort. This is like really clearly that if somebody doesn't show that needed effort, then you really need to be really clear on if you really want to keep them in your life or not, right? Because this is kind of probably the process of codependence. It's kind of like really hard to get out of that, almost like looks like closed loop. It's kind of like the essence of being trapped. It's kind of like you cannot stand them, but you can't live without them. So this is why forgiving and learning is a gift to you. It's kind of like releasing some kind of situation. Yes, in order to reclaim yourself, in order to reclaim your own happiness. Like Three of Cups, look at his happy three kitties, and look at that cup of love that you as a Queen of Cups can actually have. So that soulmate over here was somebody who really shook you down to this point that you're like even questioning if you will ever recover. But you will, because the Three Cups are spilled, but Two Cups are standing. You need to look. You need to look around, that there are people who are there to nourish you, to cherish you. And there we have like Four of Cups. You might go in the mild depression. You might go into, oh my gosh, you know, like I really don't know what it is. But you're eventually going to realize that, you know, this is like maybe somebody who just has been bored and doing the things out of boredom, and to you that's everything, right? So, you know, like, I mean, this definitely is telling you that it has to be some kind of like teamwork. It has to be kind of like going toward the same goal, having the same aspirations. Why else would somebody really want to stick around in any other kind of like configuration? Like, well, the person who is maybe codependent, sometimes we stay because, oh my gosh, I cannot get better, or you know, like they're all whole story about settling, or you know, I have all the problems myself and I don't want to judge. Yeah, but you know what, if this kind of like grasps your heart and it squeezes your heart and somebody's piercing you, then it's truly better to be alone than to be one more second with this person who is just simply ripping you apart, and looks like you're reclaiming yourself this entire month. So what is like here immediately ahead of you is like this: give your relationship a chance, work on your partnership. So maybe something is repairable over here in spite of like whole bunch of stuff that happened. And I think this is like really having a big heart. This is kind of like Pisces, like it wouldn't happen to me. And this, you really have to ask yourself if you are setting yourself up. This is my card of friendships, of relationships, because you see the ships, partnerships. It is like after you had this, like, where did you have it, like these I think Two of Wands, now you have like Three of Wands. It is like kind of like direction, and it's determining direction. The relationship can have like different facets. Is it going to be a love relationship, kind of like acquaintance? But look at this, you're going for, like, you're literally ramping up. Somebody definitely wronged you. Somebody left. Maybe you left. Maybe you left because you couldn't handle the situation. Maybe because there was the essence of some kind of like rejection. Because this is really good news, guys. This is like healing. This is newfound zest for life. This is trust. This is like going to the next level. So if you had difficulty with somebody who was cheating, it's really going to hit them. And maybe because you can give this like big forgiveness to someone that we air signs can, maybe somebody's going to be really humbled and taken with this enormous God's gift, because that you trust them in spite of everything, that you tell them, look, you're like so wonderful. and I see this greatness in you, but I don't know how to be with you or be around you when I want to be with you. I see this like big shining light, but I also experience such enormous pain when, you know, things happen, and I'm kind of like in this thing that I need to make this choice. Maybe it's going to be just enough to open that gateway of their heart and resolve why people do that. People generally don't do these nasty things because they want to be nasty. They do these things like as it kind of like shown because they're either bored or they're like really not realizing, they're not self-aware, they're not aware that these kind of like small things are going to be huge things, right? When a parent hits a child, maybe they don't even remember it 3 days later, year later, 10, 20 years later, but the child does. So that's kind of like the impact that somebody has to realize, that kind of like can be a changing life course impact. So them understanding this, it almost looks like it's going to open their heart. You're able to ask the right questions, set the foot down, what you want, what you don't want, and yet still offer this big cup of love. So there is this calling in your soulmate. But again, I'm seeing that it could be 3 is the crowd over here, guys. You think somebody is like, as I said, not self-aware. Look at this kitty here in the 5 of Swords. He is like, so, oh my gosh, look at this. I'm so special. I'm so special. You know this joke when how dog and cat think about God. So dog kind of like keeps looking at humans and he goes, they're feeding me, they're petting me, they're like so nice to me. These people must be gods. So how cat thinks about the same situation. Oh, these people are feeding me and petting me and being so nice to me. I must be God. That's kind of like that situation over here. Somebody needs to be taken off their high horse. Somebody is like into, you know, not again really realizing how they really affect. However, this is really positive. You know, like positive that almost like coming back to yourself, to your intuition, you can actually make change. You are going to affect either how you communicate to others or how others communicate to you. So there it is. Voila. There is like your King of Cups showing up. Yes, your cup is bigger, but you know, if you're a guy, maybe bigger is kind of like important, but if you're a girl, you know, this is gonna look really nice to have like this immense source of emotion and care and love towards someone. So there is like this fellow. This is also Pisces, as you can see, and this could be you. This could be completely standing firm in your maturity. There is like this emotional maturity that I see, and this is like a biggie, getting away from this codependency. But this also could mean that there is somebody new coming to your life, and somebody new who all of a sudden is going to overshadow everything else that has been happening, and or the person that you have been with is going to be completely new person. And yes, it does happen. It does happen. It might be kind of like pull back situation first, but then you see this person is like somebody who kind of like quietly thinks and quietly decides, and only when they are completely certain they come to you and they tell you. So that's when basically the proposal happens. That could actually mean proposal. I can see actually this here for some of you. Maybe, you know, you're in one of the situation when finally like everything was working in a relationship, and maybe somebody mentioned marriage and it's like, oh my god, I cannot marry, I cannot marry, and somebody goes and runs away and like he's with another man and with another woman, and all of a sudden, like, I mean, you're like desperate and like wondering what the heck happened, right? Feeling completely out of your element. And then, you know, 3 months later, this person is just totally realizing, well, this is what they wanted. So what the hell was they looking for? And then they're really, see, people really, to get basically back, they really need to be very transparent, and they really need to really put all cards on the table. This guy does that. So trust is kind of like, as they say, given, but once when you take this away, it's really hard to rebuild this. So you will be really looking in situation. It's going to be literally black and white, and you will totally know, because you have been rebuilding yourself to trust. You wanted to kind of like go in this new direction, but this Chariot reverse really says that you're also cautious about how to approach these new situations. Well, there is the Karma card, Ace of Swords, and you have Knight of Swords. So you are not going to be trusting unreservedly, just like as I mentioned initially. See, this is the card of victory. I think it's a self-victory, and somebody coming to your life, because that's in the environment, really need to deserve your trust, that you will not allow them to rule over you. You will not allow them to come and wreck your life, because this sword says, hey, you know what, I will cut you, and I will cut me loving you. Pick your choice. It's again telling me that you actually will not have a patience for anybody who is trying to so it's going to be two types. If you, either this person is going to be really get mature, or kind of like move forward in that direction, in that kindness, and it's going to be really, really good fit all of a sudden. Because sometimes, you know, all these inventions that happened in the past, look at Thomas Edison and the light bulb, how many trials failed. Sometimes it takes just a little difference, and all of a sudden things work. So that kind of like frequency over here might be happening for some. The others, they're going to get your bad frequency, and it's going to be, you know what, you think I'm all sweet Pisces? Let me show you what I think about you, kind of a thing, right? There is like still some sense of nostalgia over here. You're still thinking about this person from the past. If this is not, if this is a new person, or if you're going in a new direction, they're like still going to be. But then again, hello, these are Pisces, you're Pisces, you always feel like that. Six of Cups is that memory lane. But this also could mean engagement with someone who has children, or if you have children and you are kind of like, you wanted to get engaged with someone. As I said, somebody ran away because M word, the marriage word have been mentioned. Maybe like all of a sudden they're like even more than eager to be a father and mother, or parent, step parent, right, in the situation. And it's kind of like interestingly, because like this is that's the category of your hopes and fears. And hopes are that things work out. Hopes are everything happens and you kind of like are well prepared, it looks like. But this is also kind of like very edgy. So you have this Nine of Swords, you had Ten of Swords, you had here Ace of Swords. So all the swords are telling me that you're actually processing things through your head. And it is like something that you have learned from your friends. They're telling you probably you giving everything and then a shirt off from your back is maybe not the best policy. Kind of like you need to have some kind of like insurance policy on it. Because like you're not going into things recklessly. And you're maybe not completely capable of moving forward. As from what I see, you know you can, you are able to, but there are like still issues relating to the past that you really need to address. That kind of like would make more sense to me. That's kind of like really quickly jumping, and I would not really worry too much. This King of Cups is a patient person whom you can say, look, I'm not ready, I'm still dealing with some kind of like emotions, and this person is going to even respect you more for it. Because what if somebody expects that you have to jump, and just because they are so gorgeous and to show up in your life, you know, they're not the right one for you, and you are like no longer willing to negotiate who you are. The codependency really means making right choices for you, doing the choices that the person who loved themselves would do for themselves. So it looks like there is like this dedication, and of course it almost like feels like going this new direction is kind of difficult. So hence you're filtering everything through, is this kind of like making intellectual sense? Because emotionally you are there, you're willing to be the best one you can be, even to the bad people. But the truth is here that is telling, yes, you keep an open mind, but you don't really have to jump in all the way. Queen of Pentacles is that ability to be married, but like she came reversed. So there is like this essence of still not being ready, and that's probably why we had the 10 of Pentacles reversed here. But as I said, Queen of Swords, you're processing things through your head. So do not go with, well, that's a hunch, that's an instinct. Well, yeah, sure, it might work out with this person, or just like go with the flow. That's your water element. Just think if these people make sense for you. Not like, do they make sense on the paper? Because that's what Queen of Pentacles does. Oh, he's from a good family, he has education, has a job, looks good. But Queen of Swords is saying, okay, the life brings troubles, and everything is easy without troubles. But, you know, like as I said, Oprah said, you know, who is going to, the friends, you know, like she said, it's easy to take, it's easy to find people who will take a ride with you in a limo, but how many of them will take a bus with you? So she has been through so much, and so much has been done to her, and she is still not jaded. She still says, look, I know I am not going to allow things that I already know that can end badly back in my life. So there is like this really minimizing effect, but she does have an open mind, right? But the moment when somebody exhibits something that maybe would kind of like create you this anxiety and turmoil, you would know that that's, you see, this is how the air signs think. You would know that, hey, this is a red flag. That red flag I had before, and this is like what ended. Do I really want to go down that path? So you're going to have this like newfound enthusiasm about yourself, newfound, you know, this is really lovely because you had this like, and I don't know where it is, this page of here it is, of Pentacles, and kind of like things were not moving, you were not able to turn this like new leaf, and Page of Wands is this like big zest, new energy for kind of like new, turning a new leaf, moving in a new direction, and kind of like reclaiming yourself. So Pisces, I have actually pulled one more card for you, but again, as I said, please check your ascendant, please check your moon sign, and of course private reading is really the best because this can be really kind of like the generic energy. And yeah, let's see what is the basically conclusion to this reading for September. Your card is Compass, and it was upright. So this is like what it says. As long as you orient your compass to true north, the direction of your higher power, you will never be lost. You're entering uncharted territories right now and can expect wonderful new experiences. To stay on the highest path of your destiny, you'll need to keep your compass pointed to true north. Only spirit or a higher power can serve this function. Money, property, prestige, romance, and other material achievements can't help you find your true path. They are simply things you may experience along the journey. Know that spirit is working in your life, so even if you feel lost temporarily, it will be easy to find your way. Have faith and trust, for your compass with spirit as true north will ensure that you'll never be lost, even on a starless night when all seems dark. So if this moon is being overshadowed with clouds, you guys are really shifting the direction where you are heading. You maybe kind of like didn't want to walk the tightrope, but by the end of the month, you're actually going to have a completely different perspective on how to process people, how to process situation, and you're going to be a little stingy with who actually can be a part of your life. And that's going to be a really big lesson and a very powerful one as well. So my dear Pisces, thank you so much for being here with me, and I wish you all the best. And until the next month, please come and join the live sessions on Saturdays at 11 Eastern Standard Time. That will be 8 a.m. Pacific time. And if you can't make for live, then just please join social media, because also somebody will win that 15 minutes from social media entries. And you know what? As much as like you had other people help you, your basically input and your words and your situation can help somebody else, because we all together are smarter and we can better kind of like come and reach solutions. So my dear Pisces, until the next month, you can reach me via my website ktarot.ca, and until the next time, I love you.